concepts as important as accessibility. We've talked about the university. At university, the concept of accessibility is everywhere. Physical accessibility, content accessibility, virtual accessibility, presence accessibility. They need to have accessibility in everything. It needs to be a design for all. But for instance, the needs of a person that is deaf are not the same as the needs of a person that is blind. And so within the disabilities we find a whole diversity, and the problem is very broad. We need to go deeper into it and make it go more into detail into it. It seems that we need to also define all these concepts of accessibility, because all the interfaces are important. For instance, touchscreen interfaces are everywhere at the moment. But what formal definitions do we have in order to say, okay, with this interface, let's do something that can be used by all? Or let's have the proper identification of those sectors, of those groups, so that we can design specific things for those groups with needs. We have to define everything in a more precise, more technical manner, because we cannot just give them these broad terms because we leave everything to their good faith, and that doesn't always work. And maybe this is a bit controversial. Also, I share that a solution such as the iPhones, the iPads, etc., they are being very well accepted by certain people with disabilities. For instance, people with sight problems are able to access them very well because they use voice recognition, voice synthesis, etc. However, these same items or devices do not work very well, let's say, for people who have mobility problems. They are not perfect, therefore they have to continue improving. But sometimes we haven't defined very well how they should, what are the different groups and the different disabilities, so that that solution can be used. And of course sometimes this is due to purely financial interests. They have decided not to define it so well because of that. Well, David, I would like to take this opportunity to say that what you're talking about right now has to do with the new ways of interacting, or things that we're doing now in the labs and that we're going to be using tomorrow. Why, when we were investigating into touch screens, why did they not think that that could be a problem for blind people? And that's because at the research level they are not applying the criteria of design for all. I think we have to think of accessibility right from the beginning, and maybe I'll take this opportunity to advertise a roundtable that I will chair at the end of the morning on a work done by the Excel, which is a European Institute for telecommunication standards, in order to make sure that all the designs take into account how they can be applied for all, how they can be designed for all. For instance, regarding the touch screens, there are already solutions such as voice recognition, screen readers for mobiles that work quite well. There are even other solutions based on touch screens that also provide a physical mean, let's say, and that is working quite well. But do the manufacturers of these products take into account all the accessibility for all? I don't think so. I think we need to, yes, define very well what we mean by design for all. There's a lot of literature about it, but they also need to apply the principles to the products before they are out in the market, whilst they're being designed. I would like to link this to something we were saying before regarding what Caroline was saying. It is true that it is very expensive to rebuild, remake something that has been not well thought of from the beginning. For instance, mobile phones, the first mobile phones. You'll know that the blind people talk a lot on the phone, on the mobile phone, and normally they call a lot of people and they talk for a very long time. And it's important to know how much battery you've got left. So we can look at the screen and see if there's 3 bars or 2 bars or 1 bar. That's very good. We know when we have to charge it. If we had making that accessible for blind people would have been so easy. You just need to add 4 lines in the program to say, okay, there is, I don't know, to give 1 beep or 2 beeps when the battery is starting to run low. And anyone in the design chain could have thought about it. Why did no one think, okay, maybe this will be used by a blind person, why do not include this? Right then it wouldn't have cost, it wouldn't have been an extra cost. Of course, after the product is already in the market, that would have been too expensive. You have to wait for the next generation of phones in order to include it. And this means that within the design chain, we need to have people that have these criteria embedded in their mind so that they think straight away of the people that will be using them, regardless of the standards, because many times standards are also a bit absurd and give you total nightmares, and I understand, but we're looking at the use and who will use this device and what problems that person may encounter when using that device. And I think that needs to be included at the beginning, where, you know, in the design stage, when the programmer can say, oh, this could be used by this or that person, and so I just need to add this in the program. And regarding what Valentin was saying, I think it is true, what Miguel Angel was saying a minute ago, I think it is true that we have to do things as a common standard practice. I'm sure that we have to apply the same standards here as in the rest of Spain. The standard agency, within the criteria and assessment items for the universities, I think it could include what are the capabilities of the universities in order to integrate students with disabilities and to take into account within the criteria for the assessment of the degrees all these topics, because there will be an economic drive behind it. I mean, if the items when giving a grant at university include accessibility, then that will be important. For instance, let's say this university has 3 or 4% of people, students with disabilities, and this includes an extra cost, and so the state will cover this cost. I imagine that is already taken into account. I'm really sorry, they're not using the microphone. Yes, and what you were saying before, the reflection that we were making at the beginning, it is true that we have a lot of legislation, and ANECA, which is the agency that has to make sure that this regulation is complied by. The items that are included in the list, in the assessment list, are very general. It's like saying, I comply with human rights, and that is enough. You don't have to go into detail. And that means that we have done it of our own accord. This C of quality, or the E of excellence, for me, excellence means that